like you're drowning in to-dos, emails, just demands on your time?
Yeah.
You're not alone. That's why we're doing this deep dive into Baha and Margaret Habashi's Creating a Culture of Maximum Impact for Good. We're going to try to equip you with some strategies to conquer that feeling of information overload. But this isn't just about checking off more boxes though, right? CC Mig, as we'll call it for short, really digs into the why behind our obsession with doing more faster. They describe this businessman practically sprinting between meetings, scarfing down fast food, all in the name of urgency. It's almost comical, but also kind of relatable. And get this, CC Mix says the cost of presenteeism, basically showing up to work burned out, it's 10 times higher than absenteeism. That really hit me hard. It's not just a productivity issue, it's impacting our well being way deeper than that. Here's the good news though. CCMIG doesn't leave us hanging. It actually gives us this framework for taking back control and creating a life of impact without burning out. And to help us unpack all of this, we have our expert joining us. Welcome. What struck you most about this book's approach to tackling information overload?
Well, what I found fascinating was how CCMeg immediately puts the responsibility back on us. It's so easy to blame external factors, but it really drives home the point that managing our mental bandwidth is our job. They compare our minds to computer disk drives. Ever had that old computer that just grinds to a halt because the hard drive's overloaded? Decluttering our minds is no different.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Mm.
But even before we declutter, CCMIG talks about the power of self awareness. What does that even look like when we're talking about information overload?
Well, it starts with honestly assessing what's causing the overload in your life. Is
Hmm.
it the emails? Is it the pressure to be always on or something else? We can only start to develop solutions once we pinpoint the root causes right us.
And speaking of solutions, CCMIG is not shy about the power of saying no. It's not about being uncooperative, it's about setting healthy boundaries to protect our time and energy. One strategy that stood out to me was batch processing. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. Batch processing is a game changer for reclaiming control over our day. CCMIG suggests that we designate specific times for checking emails, making phone calls, even those smaller tasks that can eat away at our day. Imagine having those blocks of uninterrupted time for focused work.
Right, it's like creating those mental white spaces. Those are so crucial for creativity and deep thinking. Now, CCMIG gets really tactical with what they call their filtering system. It's four key filters: roles, people, issues, and goals. And these filters help us prioritize and make more conscious choices about where we invest our time and energy. Let's dive into those filters. Let's start with roles. What's interesting here is that CCMAG challenges us to think beyond our job titles. Why is that so important?
Because our roles extend far beyond our 9 to 5s. We're not just employees, we're partners, parents, friends, community members. The list goes on and on. They use a really insightful analogy. They ask, are we on the operational stage of life focused on routine tasks? Or are we on the project stage, driving change and innovation? Each stage needs different skills and priorities.
So, by recognizing these various roles, we can assess our impact and we can identify those areas where we can make the most meaningful contributions.
Exactly. It's about aligning our actions with our values and striving for a sense of purpose in all that we do.
I love that. Let's move on to the people filter. This one got me curious because it's all about how our relationships either add to or take away from that feeling of overload.
This filter really resonated with me. It acknowledges how profoundly our relationships impact our well-being. And CCMIG introduces these categories of people: important people, those essential to our lives and well-being; teachable people, those we can mentor and learn from; and draining people, those who well drain our energy. I don't know about you, but I immediately started mentally categorizing everyone I know.
Me too. It's a powerful framework for understanding how our interactions can either energize or deplete us. And it's not about labeling people as good or bad, it's about recognizing the energy they bring into our lives and making conscious choices about how we engage with them. Okay, let's move on to the issues filter. This one's so relevant in our fast paced world where everything feels urgent.
This is where CCMIG's message of mindful prioritization really shines through. They talk about the dangers of the tyranny of the urgent, that feeling of constantly being pulled in a million directions, reacting to every notification, but it comes at a cost. We often neglect the truly important tasks that contribute to our long-term goals and well-being.
It's so easy to get swept up in that whirlwind of urgency. How does CC Make help us break free?
They have this visual of four-quadrant urgency versus importance matrix. It's so simple, but it's a really powerful tool for categorizing tasks and making conscious choices about where we focus our energy. The goal is to shift from a mindset of reactivity to proactivity, prioritizing the tasks that actually align with our values and contribute to our sense of fulfillment.
It's about being intentional with our time. instead of letting it be dictated by those external pressures. This brings us to our final filter, goals. How does CCMIG connect this back to that overarching theme of proactive living?
They emphasize the importance of proactively defining our desired outcomes. It's not enough to just react to the demands of daily life. We need a clear vision of where we want to go and concrete steps to get there. They're big proponents of setting SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Right. So instead of just saying, I want to be more productive, a SMART goal might be, I will block out 1 hour every morning for focused work on my most important project, and I will track my progress in a planner. That's a lot more actionable, right?
Exactly. Just like financial planning, our life goals need to be well-defined and actionable if we want to create lasting change. It's about taking ownership and making conscious choices that align with our values and aspirations.
Now, I love how CCMIG doesn't just leave us with these high level concepts, they actually provide a framework for putting these insights into action. One of the first steps they recommend is crafting a personal mission statement. Can you tell us more about that?
This is where we really start to connect the dots between who we are and what we want to achieve. And CC Making dedicates an entire chapter to guiding readers through the process of developing a personal mission statement.
So it's not just a feel good exercise, it's about gaining clarity on what truly matters to us and using that clarity to guide our decisions and actions.
Exactly. It's about living with intentionality, aligning our day-to-day choices with our overarching purpose.
I love that phrase, living with intentionality. It really gets at the transformative potential of this book. Now, another aspect I found insightful was the emphasis on coaching. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Absolutely. Coaching is often seen as a remedy for weakness, but CC MIG reframes it as a powerful tool for growth and development. It's about acknowledging that we don't have to have it all figured out, and that seeking guidance from a trusted mentor or coach can accelerate our progress and help us navigate challenges more effectively.
It's about leveraging the wisdom and experience of others to help us reach our full potential. And it's not just about receiving coaching. CCMEG also encourages us to become coaches ourselves. What a beautiful way to pay it forward and share the knowledge and insights we've gained with others. Like they say, even small changes can create a ripple effect, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of those around us. On that note, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. It's based on the book's message. If you could delegate one draining task this week, what would it be? And more importantly, what would that free you up to do? Take a moment to reflect on that. And we'll be back soon to continue our exploration of creating a culture of maximum impact for good in part two of this deep dive. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but thinking about delegating a draining task, that got me thinking. It's amazing how much mental space opens up when we just consider letting go of those energy zapping activities. But delegation is only one piece of the puzzle, right? So, in this part, let's look at how CCMIG takes us from those high level concepts to concrete actions. Actions that'll help us actually reclaim control of our time and energy.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about CCMIG is that it doesn't just leave us with those big picture ideas. It gives us this toolbox of strategies so we can actually use these principles every day.
Right. It's one thing to talk about setting boundaries, but it's a whole other thing to actually do it. One place I'm always looking for practical tips is managing email overload. It's just such a common source of stress and distraction. What are some of CCMIG's key strategies for taming our inboxes?
One that's simple but really powerful is what they call the Ohio principle. Only handle it once. So every time you open an email, you make a decision right then and there. Delete it, respond to it, delegate it, or schedule a time to deal with it later. No more rereading a million times or moving messages between folders.
I actually started using that OIO principle myself, and it really is a game changer. It forces you to be decisive, and I don't feel like I'm constantly trying to stay afloat in my inbox. Another strategy I know CCMIG recommends is setting up rules based filters. A lot of email programs offer this, but I think we often underestimate how powerful they can be.
Absolutely. It's like having an automated sorting system for your inbox. You can create rules based on the sender, the subject, keywords, so many options. So instead of being bombarded with every message as it comes in, you can focus on the important stuff while the less urgent things wait.
It's about making the system work for you, not the other way around. Now, email is just one piece of the communication puzzle. CCMIG also gives strategies for managing phone overload. This is a big one for me. I can get sucked into these long phone conversations so easily. Do you have any tips from the book that have helped you with that?
One that clicked with me was having some kind of plan before making a call, like a script, or even just a loose outline of what I want to talk about, especially for work calls. I know it sounds overly structured, but it can actually save time because it helps you stay on track and cover everything without getting sidetracked.
It's about respecting everyone's time, yours and the person you're calling. What about voicemail? Any tips on managing that inbox?
CCMIG actually suggests using that batch processing idea we talked about for email. So you would choose certain times to listen to and respond to voicemails instead of letting them interrupt you all day. And having a professional, to-the-point outgoing message can make a big difference too.
It's all about boundaries and managing expectations. Let's talk about meetings. People are always saying meetings are the biggest time wasters at work. What's CCMIG's take on making meetings more productive and worthwhile?
Well, they actually encourage people to really think about whether a meeting is even necessary in the first place. Could you accomplish the same thing with a quick phone call or email? Or what about using an online collaboration tool?
Right, choose the best tool for the job. Don't just default to a meeting every time. But of course, some meetings you just can't avoid. So how does CCMIG say we can make the most of those?
They have a really practical framework. They emphasize having clear objectives and goals for every meeting, using a structured agenda, and giving people roles and responsibilities beforehand. That way, everyone's on the same page from the start, and the meeting has a clear purpose and desired outcome.
So meetings become a tool for collaboration and progress instead of being a drain on everyone's time and energy. Now let's shift gears to another productivity killer, interruptions. Colleagues dropping by, the phone ringing off the hook, email notifications popping up. Interruptions can really mess with your focus. What are some of CCMIG's strategies for minimizing those disruptions?
One technique that's simple but effective is having some kind of visual cue that tells people you're in focus mode, like closing your office door, putting on noise-canceling headphones, even putting up a do not disturb sign.
I love that. It's a way to set boundaries without being rude.
Exactly. CCNIG also suggests having specific times when you're available to colleagues, like open office hours or regular check-ins. So you're still accessible, but you're also protecting those blocks of time when you need to focus.
It's about finding that balance between collaborating with people and having that individual focus time. We might think paper overload is the thing of the past in this digital age, but it's still a real problem. It creates clutter, both physically and mentally. How does CCMIG say we can effectively manage paper files?
They actually take a similar approach to managing paper as they do to email. It's all about the system. They recommend using what they call a frequency of use filing method. Think of it like a library. The books you use all the time are easy to get to, but the ones you rarely need are stored away.
Okay, so how do we use that frequency of use idea for our own filing systems?
CCMake says to create three main categories for paper files: hot files, reference files, and archive files. Hot files are for documents you're actively working with or need all the time. Reference files are for things you use sometimes, but not every day. And archive files are for things you hardly ever need, but just can't quite bring yourself to get rid of.
So it's like a hierarchy based on how often you need something.
Exactly. And they recommend making a detailed index with clear subject headings so it's even easier to find what you need. Oh, and just like with email, they say to use the OHIO principle for paper too. Only handle it once. Make a decision about every piece of paper you get. File it, do something with it, delegate it, or toss it.
It's amazing how those simple principles can be applied to so many areas of our lives. So once we've decluttered and organized our workspaces, both physical and digital, CCMIG takes it one step further. They recommend we create a personalized filing system that reflects our own unique roles and responsibilities. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
This is where you go beyond just generic filing categories. You create a system that truly supports your own individual workflow. CCMIG suggests thinking about a roles-based filing structure. So instead of having one giant work file, you might have separate files for different categories like leadership, operations, projects, or whatever makes sense for you.
So you're tailoring your filing system to match your priorities and responsibilities.
Exactly. And it's not enough just to set it up, you have to maintain it too. CCMIG emphasizes the importance of regular decluttering and getting rid of stuff. Yeah, going through your filing system every so often to get rid of unnecessary documents and make sure it's still working for you.
It's about making sure your system evolves as your needs change. It's amazing how much lighter things feel when we have those systems in place. But CCMIG goes beyond just the practical stuff, right? They talk about how important personal development is for making a real impact. And one thing that really struck me was how they said that personal growth isn't just a nice bonus, it's actually essential in this constantly changing world we live in.
Absolutely. CCMIG makes it clear that learning and growing throughout our lives is key. It's how we stay relevant and adaptable and engaged no matter what life throws our way. And one of the things that really resonated with me was their focus on figuring out our strengths and then using them to our advantage.
I love that they talk about that. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to fix our weaknesses. But CC Mig says we should actually focus on what we're naturally good at.
There's a whole different way of looking at things. Instead of constantly trying to get better at things that might not ever be our strong suit. CC Meek says embrace your natural talents and find ways to use them everywhere you can.
Working smarter, not harder.
Right.
I know they're big fans of that Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. Have you ever taken that?
I have actually. It's a really cool tool for discovering your top 5 talent themes, the things that just come naturally to you. But it's not just about putting a label on yourself. It's about understanding how those strengths can help you be more impactful in your work, your relationships, everything.
It's like finding that sweet spot where your talents and your passions and your values all come together.
Exactly. And CCMIG has all these exercises that help you pinpoint that sweet spot. You can analyze the different roles you play, think
Mhm.
about your leadership style. It's like a journey of self-discovery, and it can be really empowering.
It's about making sure your actions line up with who you truly are, and that ultimately leads to a more fulfilling and impactful life. As we wrap up our deep dive into creating a culture of maximum impact for good, I keep coming back to one of the book's main ideas: the power of conscious choice.
Yeah, it's woven through every single chapter. It's about realizing that we're not just along for the ride in our own lives, we're active participants, and we have the power to shape our own experiences.
We've covered so many strategies and techniques for managing overload, for using our time better, for being more effective, but it really all comes down to making intentional choices that match our values and what we want to achieve.
CCMIG is a call to action. It's
Yeah.
saying, Get out of that reactive autopilot mode and start living more deliberately and purposefully."
And that shift doesn't just affect us as individuals, it impacts our workplaces, our communities, our world.
It's so inspiring how CCMIG challenges us to imagine a world where effectiveness isn't just something we strive for individually, but it's a shared value that influences everything we do.
It's a powerful vision, and it feels both inspiring and attainable. As we finish up our deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought from creating a culture of maximum impact for good. It's your life. Take control. Embrace that power to make conscious choices. Let's all do our part to create a world where effectiveness and balance and impact are more than just dreams. They're our reality. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.